Jae-Won had, in 38 years of conducting business in complicated circumstances, never requested a meeting he was not certain he could control. He was not certain he could control this one. He had arranged it through a channel that could not be traced back to him, a mutual professional contact, a message delivered as a scheduling inquiry, the kind of communication that looked like one thing and was another. Sienna, who read everything as both things simultaneously, had accepted without comment. He had taken that as information. He had been making offers to people for 20 years. He had never made one he was not certain would be accepted. He was not certain about this one. He went in anyway. She arrived exactly on time. He said, "Thank you for coming." She said, "Of course." Neither of them treated these as the opening of a conversation, because they were not. They were the acknowledgement that the conversation was about to begin, and that both of them understood what kind of conversation it was going to be. He said, "I'm going to be direct." She said, "Please." He said, "You are inside an organization that is connected to a network I have been investigating for 8 months. The people who are trying to discredit your work are connected to the same network. The documentation planted against you last week traces to the same subsidiary chain that funded an attempt on my life 6 weeks before you arrived in Seoul." Stopped. He let her receive that. She said, "How long have you known I was inside Hanryo?" He said, "Since your 3rd day." She said, "And the dissolved entity last week?" He said, "Yes." She looked at him for a long moment. She said, "The gallery." He said, "Yes." She said, "The bar." He said, "Yes." The room was very quiet. He said, "I am offering you protection. Specifically, my team monitors the people connected to this network for any activity directed at you personally. If they move against you, professionally, as they did last week, or in any other way, I am positioned to respond. You continue your work. The investigation you are running inside Hanryo is the only internal investigation that is currently touching this network from the inside. I have an interest in that investigation continuing." He paused. He said, "That is the professional case for the offer." She said, "And the other case?" He was quiet for a moment. He said, "I owe you a debt I have not yet found a way to pay. This is one way." She looked at him. She said, "You know who I am?" He said, "Yes." She said, "You know what happened at the bar?" He said, "I know what the bartender told Sung-hyun. I know what I can reconstruct from 8 weeks of your professional record. And I know that you have a private column in your matrix that has been tracking events you can't explain through your professional framework, and that as of last week it had 4 entries." The room was very quiet again. She said, "You don't know about the matrix." He said, "I know you well enough to know it exists." She said no, he already knew she would. And he made the offer anyway because he wanted her to know it existed, whether she accepted it or not. That is not the language of protection. If you know what that sentence means, subscribe to Dark Magnolia Stories. Because she is about to open the matrix, and she is not going to add anything to it. She said, "No." He said, "I expected that." She said, "Then why did you ask?" He said, "Because it needed to be asked, and because some things that are declined the first time are not declined the second time, and because I wanted you to know the offer existed whether you accepted it or not." Saki said, "Why?" She said, "I built my own safety. Everything I have, and the documentation, the methodology, the network, the practice, I built it because I understood that no one was going to build it for me. That is not a complaint. It is a fact. I built it because the world required it, and because I was capable of building it. It is mine. Accepting protection from someone else's structure means operating inside a debt I did not choose and cannot fully assess on behalf of a relationship whose terms I do not yet understand. She said, "Those are not the terms I operate on." He said, "I know." He let a moment pass. He said, "That's what makes this different." She did not answer. She looked at him for a long time. She picked up her bag. She said, "Thank you for the directness." She left. She sat for a long time without moving. This was not something she did. She was a person who moved through problems, through days, through the accumulated weight of a professional life that required constant forward motion. She processed while moving. She recovered while working. She had built her entire practice on the principle that stillness was something you arrived at through motion, not something you sat down into. It's so. She sat, so. She had declined the offer. She had meant every word of her declination. She had built her own safety. She did not operate on terms she had not chosen. These were true things, principles she had lived by for 12 years, and she had not said them as a performance or a deflection. She had said them because they were her answer, and her answer was no. That's what makes this different. She turned that sentence over. He had not said, "I know, and I'm asking anyway." He had not said, "I know, but consider reconsidering." He had said, "I know," and then, separately, as a statement, not a rebuttal, "That's what makes this different." He had acknowledged her refusal and named it in the same breath as the specific thing that distinguished this offer from any offer she had declined before. She understood what he had meant. She understood it precisely with the full apparatus of a mind that was very good at understanding what people meant. She sat in her coat for another 20 minutes. Then she got up, hung the coat, set down the bag, and opened the matrix. She did not add anything to it. She looked at it for a long time. She closed it. Sung-hyun had been waiting outside the building. He had seen Sienna leave first, coat buttoned, bag over her shoulder, moving through the lobby with the efficiency of a woman who was processing something while in motion. He had noted the quality of her movement. He had made a small, private assessment. He had waited. Jae-Won had emerged 11 minutes later. He had walked to the car with his usual precision. He had gotten in. He had said nothing. In 11 years, Jae-Won had never said nothing after a significant meeting. He always said something, a next step, an instruction, an assessment, even in the most difficult situations, the Busan succession, the Tokyo incident, the 3 months when the network had come closer to fracture than anyone outside the innermost circle knew. He had always spoken. Silence, in Sung-hyun's experience, was not the absence of something to say. It was the presence of something that could not yet be said. He drove. He said nothing. He understood that this was worse than a difficult outcome. A difficult outcome could be managed. What he was watching in the back seat could not be managed. It could only be waited out. The alert was specific. Yoon Jae-Won had made direct contact with Sienna Delacroix. Not surveillance, not a public event with proximity, a private meeting arranged through an intermediary channel in a hotel that was not associated with either of them professionally. The meeting had lasted 41 minutes. She had left first. He had left 11 minutes later. Declan looked at the alert for a long time. He called Seamus. Seamus listened to the report without interrupting. When Declan finished, Seamus said, 41 minutes. Declan said, yes. Seamus said, she left first. Declan said, yes. Seamus said, he stayed 11 minutes. Declan said, yes. Seamus was quiet. He said, what did he want? Declan said, we don't know. The channel was clean, no record of content. Seamus said, she left first. He said it again, not as a question, as a man turning something over. He said, we can't move yet. Declan said if he finds out who she is, Seamus said he won't. Not yet. She doesn't know, and she cannot know yet. Declan said, and if he makes contact again. Seamus looked at the window. He said, then we'll have a different conversation. He hung up. He picked up his whiskey. He did not drink it. He looked at the dark outside the window and thought about a girl he had watched grow up from a distance across an ocean through letters and 2 summer visits and 1 nod that had cost him nothing and meant everything. He thought about the man who had been looking for her for 8 weeks. He thought about the 41 minutes. He drank the whiskey. He poured another. He sat with it. No one had ever turned it down before. Jae-Won Yoon had made offers to people for 20 years, offers of protection, alliance, resource, access, and the offers had always been accepted because the offers had always been made from a position of such evident power that declining them was not a viable option. Sienna Delacroix had declined. Politely, directly, with the full explanation of her reasons offered not as an apology, but as the professional courtesy of a person who believed other people deserved to stand her decisions. And then she had left. He had sat in the room for 11 minutes after she left. Right? He had not counted them, right? Sung Hyun had. In Seoul, she was looking at a closed matrix. In Seoul, he was looking at a city he had navigated for 38 years and could not currently read. In County Clare, Seamus Calloway was thinking about a girl he had watched from a distance and a man he had not yet met, and 41 minutes that had just changed the weight of everything. The offer had been declined. Everything was different anyway. Whiskey and War, Episode 9. The offer has been made, and the offer has been declined, and Sienna Delacroix is sitting in her hotel room in her coat with a closed matrix on a desk she is not looking at. Come back Tuesday. 2 grandfathers. 2 men. 1 woman. Neither of them knows, the other knows. Episode 10 drops Tuesday. This is Dark Magnolia Stories. Subscribe.